Eire Nua, finance. The purpose of a financial system is to provide, as well as a medium of exchange, a fund of credit whereby the economic surplus may be reinvested, thus enabling the economy to expand. The latter purpose at present is not being fulfilled. The Irish financial system is integrated with that of England. It consists of a banking sector and an insurance sector. There is also a central bank under the 26 county administration whose function is purely nominal. In order of strength of connection with Britain, the leading banks, controlling over 80% of the assets of the business, rate as follows. A. The Northern Bank and the Belfast Banking Company have been merged into one bank called the Northern Bank Limited, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Midland Bank in England. The Ulster Bank is now owned by another English bank, the Westminster Bank. B. The Bank of Ireland Group extends throughout the 32 counties. Its directors' other interests are mainly in old established firms dating from active union conditions. The group includes the National Bank of Ireland, the Hibernian Bank, and the Chase and Bank of Ireland International. This latter bank is owned jointly by the Bank of Ireland and the Chase Manhattan Bank in America. The allied Irish banks consist of the Munster and Leinster Bank, the Provincial Bank, and the Royal Bank. They are independently owned by Irish interests but pursue a policy in conformity with that laid down by the others, which constitute the dominant force. Thus, the whole banking system is based on absolute domination and is integrated with the British banking system. The insurance business is completely in the hands of the British companies in the 6 counties, and mostly so in the 26. The Irish and New Ireland assurance companies constitute a breach in an otherwise all-British structure. The former is state-owned. They have consistently pursued a policy of investment in Irish industry. Together they control about 15% of the total insurance market. Thus, firms controlling 8 to 10% only of the assets of the financial system as a whole, banking and insurance taken together, have oriented themselves towards investment in Irish industry. The remainder has consistently pursued a policy of investing its assets in British securities in the case of the banks, and British equities in the case of the British-owned insurance companies. This is the major contributory cause of the failure of the 26-county economy to expand up to 1959. The savings of the Irish people, instead of being put to work in Ireland, are siphoned off into Britain. The post-1959 boom is due, A, to relaxation of control of foreigners investing in Ireland, B, to the actual subsidization of such investment as taxpayers' expense. Not only is the country being sold out, but we, the people, are subsidizing the price out of our own pockets. When the English pound notes are called in 1926, and Irish ones were substituted, the English pounds were lodged in London to act as 100% cover for the Irish note issue. The present function of the central bank is to administer this fund and to keep it in step with the Irish note issue. A small fraction of the 100% cover is now held in dollars as an empty gesture of independence. The existence of this 100% note fund, as it is called, is an effective guarantee against any genuinely independent measure ever being taken by the Dublin government. Typically to the servility of Marion Street financial thought is the fact that it is considered necessary to ensure 100% against the eventuality that every Irishman might simultaneously wish to convert Irish to English money. The present Act of Union financial system, as well as siphoning off Irish savings via banking and insurance into British investment, also facilitates private investors who wish to put their money into imperial interests. Much trading on the London Stock Exchange is done from Dublin. The financial pages of the Irish papers are a witness to this. In fact, between banking, insurance, and private investors in both parts of the country, well over 1 billion is held as foreign assets by persons and firms based in Ireland. This link is strengthening. Each takeover of an Irish firm by a British monopoly in a two-way transaction. British money comes in to buy up Irish firms, after which the Irish ex-owners invest the purchase money outside Ireland. A Sinn Féin government having jurisdiction over the whole 32-county area would proceed to the establishment of a genuinely independent Irish currency based on the productive capacity of the nation. International payments would be made with gold rather than sterling. A national development fund would be set up, to which would be contributed all foreign assets at present idle. This fund would be administered by a national financial authority who would see to it that this foreign exchange nest egg was correctly invested into certain strategically chosen capital goods. The idle foreign assets referred to above are A, the note fund, B, the substantial part, possible 75% of the individual bank's external assets at present held in Britain for trade purposes. Centralization of these assets alone would enable them to be reduced substantially and still give the same degree of buffering against trade fluctuations as at present. Reduction of trade fluctuations by exercising control over trade would enable the centralized assets to be reduced still further. The surplus sterling bank assets would be transferred to the National Development Fund against an issue of Irish government bonds. The total bank assets would remain unchanged, except that a greater fraction would be held in Irish securities. The National Financial Authority would take over and extend the functions of the present central bank. It would have at its disposal a substantial fraction of the investment funds generated internally within the economy, would be responsible for the stability of the independent currency, and would function so as to regulate the amount of credit available in accordance with the needs of the expanding economy. In proportion as the initial investment of nest egg foreign exchange became exhausted, the National Financial Authority would become increasingly dependent on internally generated savings, which would be then, however, have become more substantial thanks to the initial injection of productive capital. The National Financial Authority would be directly responsible to Andal. It would consist of the nationalized banking and insurance system, reorganized and under democratic control in order to serve the national needs instead of the needs of imperial monopolies. No other leading houses except those allowed by the state would be permitted to operate. The balance of payments would be regulated by letting the Irish currency unit find its own level in accordance with the needs of trade. This would probably result in a revalued currency unit. The regulation of the balance of payments by reevaluation would be superior to the present method, which operates in both parts of the country. Restriction of the Irish market for cheap imports from Britain by a differential unemployment rate, supplemented slightly in the 26 counties by tariffs and quotas. Cheap imports are of little use to the unemployed. Devaluation would act as an automatic universal tariff. It would only affect the cost of living insofar as this depended on import content. Thus, basic food, clothing, and housing would be little changed in price in the home market. The stock exchange would be restricted to the role of raising finance for the private sector of the Irish economy. Trading in foreign shares would be forbidden. Legislation would be introduced curbing speculation, unproductive acquisition of wealth by individuals, but favoring raising capital for new productive ventures. The interest rate in loans would be used as an instrument of economic planning by the National Financial Authority. Strategically important sectors of the economy would receive cheaper credit. The national debt would be honored in full at its present level, but it would become relatively less important as future governing financing would become independent of loans from private bodies. It would instead depend on direct control of the credit structure via the National Financial Authority, coupled with the direct control of reinvestment of the economic surplus by a national development authority set up for this purpose. Current government expenditure would be met out of taxation in full. Import of capital would be controlled and foreign domination of any sector prevented. Foreign land purchase and export of capital by nationals would be forbidden. Income from existing privately owned external assets would be taxed heavily. Retired foreigners wishing to settle here may have this rule waived. Credit unions will be developed and extended on a local basis and will enjoy the right, now denied to them, of financing local community projects. Cooperative banks will also be developed, representative of such interest as the trade unions and farmers' organizations. The whole taxation structure will be reformed fundamentally. The basic unit for the payment of tax will be the firm of or organization rather than the individual. Income tax will be restricted to the professional, managerial, and other high income strata. Distinction as at present being made between earned and unearned income. The objectives of taxation will be 1. To finance the state. 2. To redistribute wealth. 3. To favor initiative and enterprise. 4. To act as a planning instrument. The basic tax will be a selective turnover tax levied on production and services. The tax would fall less heavily on industries producing the basic necessities. The definition of necessity is likely to change as the economy develops. All industries will pay some tax. This will vary both on the above principle and on a regional basis according as it is desired to encourage industrial development in particular industries or regions. Thus, the basic taxation policy will be to allow the provision of cheap necessities, food, clothing, housing, public transport, books, education, also the means of increasing productivity, tools, machines. Central funds will be channeled towards underdeveloped areas as a matter of policy. Cooperative industry and agriculture will be favored by tax concessions. Private industry will be encouraged to reward workers' productive initiative by bonuses linked to productivity, and ultimately to convert to cooperative ownership. The high tax on unearned incomes would be scaled down in the case of retired people who have no earned income. This may have the effect of encouraging retired foreigners to settle here, which form of permanent tourism would benefit the balance of payments and help the economy generally.